channel Tutelage, a guide to economics. Here, this is Tripana. Hope all of you are doing great. In my previous session, we had already discussed classification and organization of data and definition of statistical series and their different types, that is discrete and continuous statistical series. Okay, so today we will explain another some concept under this chapter, that is collection of data. So that's why which is known as collection of data part 5. Okay, so if you missed my previous session, please go and check my description box and my first comment where the previous session link is already shared. So learner, let's start the session and move on the next slide. So here we can see some subtopics which we will explain today. So the first one is some concepts on class. The second one is types of frequency distribution series. We have already discussed the frequency distribution. What do you mean by a frequency distribution? So that's why after that in today's session we will discuss the types of frequency distribution series. The third one is concept of presentation of data, that means how to present the collected data, and fourth concept, that is concept of tabular presentation. Okay, so learner, let's begin the session and move on the main slide. So before going to the discussion on types of frequency distribution and all, at first we have to know some concepts about class, which is really helpful, which is really needed to understand for frequency distribution series. So at first we have to know some concepts of class. So do you have any idea, learner, what do you mean by a class? Class is basically a grouping of values. Okay, in statistics it is grouping of values. So class is a range of items within which a particular set of items lie is called the class. So those items or those things assigned or regarded as a belonging to a particular category, that is known as class. For example, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 20 to 30, all are the example of class. It has several parts. So the first one is the class limit. So lowest and highest values of the variable within a class is called the class limit. So 5 to 10. So both are the class limit. 5 is the class limit and 10 is the class limit. But the lowest value in this class, what is the lowest value in this class? That is the 5. And what is the highest value? That is the 10. So 5 is the lower limit and 10 is the upper limit. I think it is clear. So now move on the next part, that is class size or class width. So class width indicates the span or width of a class. So how to get the class size or class width of a particular class? So when we subtract from the upper limit to the lower limit, so then we got the actual class size or class width of the particular class. For example, in the class that is 5 to 10, so class interval is 5 because 10 is the upper class limit and 5 is the lower class limit. So difference between upper and lower class limit is equals to 5. So that's why the class width of the particular class, that is 5. Okay, so now going to the next part, that is the mid value or the class mark of the particular class. So mid value is exactly halfway between the lower and upper class limit of the class. Okay, so how to get the mid values of the particular class, learner? So mid value is obtained by adding the lower and upper class limit and dividing it by 2. So what is the lower and upper class limit? So we get in the class 5 to 10, the lower class limit, that is the 5, and upper class limit, that is the 10. So mid values is obtained by adding lower and upper class limit. So that means 5 plus 10, that equals to 15, and which is dividing by 2, that means 7.5. That is the mid value of the particular class, that is 5 to 10. Okay, so now move on the next slide. So where we can see some types of frequency distribution series. We have already discussed what do you mean by a frequency distributions, discrete frequency distribution, continuous frequency distributions, and all but today we will discuss the types of frequency distribution series, and here we can see the 4 types of frequency distribution series. The first one is exclusive, the second one is inclusive, third one is open end series, and last one is cumulative frequency series. And we will discuss all types of frequency distribution series briefly. So now move on the next slide, where we can see the definition of the exclusive series. Okay, learner, what do you mean by a exclusive series? So exclusive series is that a particular series in which items corresponding to the upper limit of each class are excluded from that class. So I think it is very it will be very clear when we are using the example. Okay, so for example, the 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, this series is known as basically a exclusive series, because where 20 is the upper limit of this class, it repeats itself as the lower limit of the next class. So the first class, that is 10 to 20. So 20 is the upper limit. So upper limit of each class are excluded from that class because the next class starts from 20 to 30. So that means 20, the upper class limit of the class, repeats itself as the lower class limit of the next class. So that's why this series indicates the exclusive series, and this series is known as the exclusive series. I think which is clear. Now move on the next type of frequency distribution, that is the inclusive series. Okay, so inclusive series is that series in which all items up to the class limit, up to the upper class limit, are included. For example, 10 to 19, 22, 29, 30 to 39. So all values, all items with values ranging between 10 to 19, 20 to 29, and 30 to 39, and so on, are included in that class. So that's why it is known as, this series is basically known as inclusive series, and that is the basic differences between the exclusive series and the inclusive series. I think which is clear. So now move on the next slide. So here we can see the third type of frequency distribution series, that is open end series. So learner, do you have any idea what is open end series? Basically open end series is that series in which the lower limit of the first class or the upper limit of the last class is missing. I think it will be more clear when we are using the example of the open end series. So now here this is an example of open end series. So below 10 and above 30, so there is no lower limit of the first class and there is no upper limit of the last class. Both are missing in that the particular example of open end series. So that's why this type of series is basically known as open end series, where the lower limit of the first class or the upper limit of the last class is missing. Okay, so now move on the next type, that is mid values frequency series. We have already known that what is mid values. How do you get the mid values of the particular class, learner? So when we are adding the upper class limit and the lower class limit, and the total value divides by 2, we get the mid values of the particular series. So mid-values frequency series, in which only mid-values of the class intervals and their corresponding frequencies are given also. So 5, 15, 25, 35 all are the mid-values of the particular class, and these are the frequency of the given mid-values. So that type of series is known as mid-values frequency series. So now move on the last frequency distribution series. So that is the cumulative frequency series. So we have already discussed what is cumulative frequency and all. But do you have any idea, learner, what do you mean by a cumulative frequency? So cumulative frequency basically indicates the total number of value. So it gives the total number of values that fall uh, below the upper boundary of the class. It means you are adding up all the value. Okay, so I think it will be more clear when we are using an example. So now going to the next slide, because there is no space for creating a table of simple frequency series. Okay, so here we can create a table, okay, of simple frequency series. Sorry. So there is three column. First one is class, second one is frequency, and third column indicates the cumulative frequency. So we can take only the first two class, 0 to 5 and 5 to 10, and frequency is the first class frequency that is 15, and second class frequency that is 8. Okay, so what is the cumulative frequency for the first class? So cumulative frequency and the frequency of the first class both are same, because there is no previous class. So that's why the first class cumulative frequency is also 15, because 15 plus 0, because there is no previous class, that means 0. So 15 plus 0, that means 15. So cumulative frequency of the first class is same as the frequency of the first class. Okay, so now going to the second class, that is 5 to 10. Okay, so frequency of that class, that is 8. So what is the cumulative frequency? So cumulative frequency is 15 plus 8. So adding up the frequency of the present class plus the frequency of the previous class also. Clear? Now we will explain it in a reversible way. So here we can see the example of the cumulative frequency series. This column indicates the cumulative frequency. Okay, so 15, 23, 25, 30 all are the values of cumulative frequency. So we have to convert it into simple frequency series also. So how do we get the simple frequency value? So when we are deducting from the frequency of the present class to the frequency of the previous class, so then we get the simple frequency. Okay, so now back to the previous slide. Okay, so here we can see the cumulative frequency series can be converted into a simple frequency series, and it can be found out by deducting from the given cumulative frequency of a class and the cumulative frequency of the previous class. That means yes, so this is conversion into the simple frequency series. So cumulative for the first class, the cumulative frequency and the frequency of the simple frequency series both are same, because there is no previous class. But going to the second class, that is 5 to 10, the frequency of the simple frequency series, that is 8. Because what do we get 8? So deducting from the frequency of the present class, that means 23, to frequency of the previous class, that means 15, that equals to 8. Now going to the third one, that is 10 to 15 class. So 25 minus 23, that equals to 2, and going to the last one, that is 30. 30 minus 25, that equals to 5. So 15, 8, 2, 5 all are the values of simple frequency series, and 15, 23, 25, 30 all are the values of cumulative frequency series. Clear? I think this is clear. So now move on the next slide. So this is the slide for presentation of data. So what do you mean by a presentation of data? Presentation means organization of data. Okay, organization of data into tables, graphs or charts. So collected data may be presented in three several ways. The first one is tabular presentation, second one is diagrammatic presentation, and third one is graphical presentation. So today we will explain only the tabular presentation part. So now move on the next slide where we can see the tabular presentation. So what do you mean by a statistical table, learner? So statistical table is a systematic organization of a data in columns and row. That means this. So this is the graphical demonstration of the statistical table. So there are two types of statistical table. The first one is a simple table and second one is a complex table. So we are going to the next slide where we can discuss or explain the definition of the simple table and the complex table. So what do you mean by a simple table? Simple table basically represents the data relating to only the one characteristics of data, and complex table all represents data relating to more two or more characteristics of the data. That is the basic differences between the simple table and the complex table. Simple table indicates the data according to the one characteristics, and complex table indicates the data according to the two or more characteristics of nature. Clear? So now we are going to the next slide where we can see the example of the simple and complex table. So the first table indicates the example of the simple table, because in this table data are given according to the one characteristics, that is year of examination or time. And now going to the second table, that indicates obviously the example of the complex table, because data are given according to the two or more characteristics. First one is a year of examination or time, and second one is a gender or sex. Okay, so I think it is clear what do you mean by a simple table and what is the complex table, and what are the basic differences between simple and complex table. Okay, so I think it is clear. So learner, we are done for the today's session. In this session, we have discussed the concept of class, simple and complex table, and different types of frequency distribution series, and the tabular presentation of data. So in my next class, we will describe some another basic concepts of statistics. So till then, stay tuned. If you have any query about it, please do comment in my comment section. And last but not the least, do not forget to like, share with your friends, and please do subscribe to my channel. Happy learning. Thank you.